Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for, just taking the time to listen to me. And I hope that you're all having a good week. I'm doing a kind of intro video message recording to this one, and then adding the other one that I just recorded to this to make it into one video or one audio recording. So yeah, I had some time today, and I just wanted to do a really random chat about life, my art project that I'm working on at the moment, how I'm feeling about that, what's happening with it, and just a really kind of candid chat, trying to keep it not too jumpy. I don't want to make things too jumpy, make it too complicated, and yeah. So, I'm going to say later in this video, just I'm trying to learn just to chill the fuck out. I really am. That's a big part of life. Isn't just about controlling it. It's about letting things flow and letting things do what they do, and just being. I have a lot of areas in my chart, so it's like I've got to control it. I've got to work out a way to be in a way that's on top of things, and sometimes like it's just like I saw a really good like not an emoji but one of those like messages on Instagram the other day where it was like a man trying to take buckets of water from the ocean and then throw it on the shore. It's like a way, like this is you trying to make a dent. Like it's just sometimes you just have to be the flow. I understand that. Although I do hate that saying where it says, go with the flow. I often think to myself, well, only dead fish go with the flow. I think it was Bruce Lee that said that. Makes perfect sense. So be the flow and at the same time steer in the direction of where your heart is taking you as well. I think we all have what I would call background stress going on in our lives. We all have things that we know what we should be focusing on, or things that we know we need to deal with. Background stress. That's what I kind of call it, because at some point it's going to have to be dealt with. Things come to a head one way or another. So avoidance is not a good strategy for life. And when I think of background stress, I think of like that bill that you've been avoiding, uh, that conversation that you've been avoiding. Uh, as I'm getting older now, I'm realizing there's so much to accomplish spiritually in terms of like looking at life, looking at reality, and it's all changing and moving at such a fast speed that sometimes I just can't keep up, and I kind of revert back to my hermit mode where it's like I make a little bubble and I want to live in this little bubble and I don't want to leave. I just need time to catch up with the last 10 years of my life because I've just been so fucking hectic. And the 10 years before that was so hectic. And that's the feeling that I have these days, is that life is just so relentless. It just keeps on moving, it keeps on going, and you have to keep on going. And in a lot of ways, I kind of feel that maybe you agree with me that it's almost like you're a hamster on a wheel in a cage. Yeah, and you have to keep moving, and the wheel's not going to stop. And as you get older, you get tired. I don't have the energy that I had in my 20s, and and so but you realize the wheel isn't going to slow down. You've got to kind of find a place within yourself where you can surrender and where you can slow yourself down in such a fast-paced, chaotic world that is moving so quickly, and it's so neurotic and so erratic that at the best of times I find it like just completely overwhelming. And being an empath and being a spiritualist, extrasensory, whatever you identify with, it's not like a regular thing where I can just walk down the street and just walking to a mall can be fucked up because you feel the stress, the worry, the panic, um, the fear, people just vibrating fear. And a lot of it these days is financial fear. A lot of people, I live here in Australia, and the cost of living has just been going through the roof. Like it's been exponentially rising at a rate that is not anywhere near in proportion with wages. So the cost of living is going up, but the wages are not going up to support the people so that they can support themselves. And it's scary because at some point, it's going to be like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's going to snap. And that really, really worries me. I get really worried. Um, and I'm privy to a few things that I see here and there, but you've got to get your head around the fact that at some point, it's something's going to break. And that that that's something that annoys me when people live in this bubble and they're like, no, everything's fine, everything's okay, but it's not. And being in the spiritual world is very difficult because I find a lot of people that claim to be spiritual will not go into these conversations with me about what is actually going on a ground level. And I listen to a lot of different people, but I don't really care. And I want to make this clear, and I want to talk from my heart that, and maybe you agree with me too. I don't really give a fuck about like what's happening out in space or like the Galactic Federation or some shit like that, or Palladians and star seeds. What use is that information really? Like, really, if you don't have enough food to eat today, what use is that information if, on what ground level is that practical? What can you do with that? How is that going to make your life better knowing what's going out in space? I feel like we need to work on what's going on here, down on planet Earth. And so when I find a lot of these people that are trying to do transhumanism, it really, really fucking pisses me off. And it makes me so, so sad because it's just another form of avoidance and escapism from reality. And that's not what spirituality is. If you can't master something in the spiritual world and then use that in the physical world, what's the point of spirituality at all? We've got to ask ourselves those questions like, how can I make my life better? How do I get more involved in my community? How do I get more involved with people? And are people interested in actually building and forging a real relationship with me? Because I know that this might sound hard to hear, but to actually build a relationship, there's a lot of work involved in that. There's a lot of effort involved in that. It's like trying to grow a beautiful garden with somebody, but if they don't place value in the garden, or if they just want the yield of the garden without actually putting any work into that, well, then that's not realistic. And that's the truth, is that spirituality is not a coping mechanism for life. It is learning about life and then applying it in your life on a physical level that makes change. That's why I find a lot of the yogis, they are all about meditation and stuff like that, clearing the mind and positive focus. But that's love, and that is lovely, and we need that. But we can't live in that because now we're doing absolutely nothing to make change in the world at all, and that's ridiculous. So I try so hard to find people that seem to be committed to self-improvement and are willing to have deep intellectual conversations with me about life and stuff like that. So every year I find that a year of my life will have a certain theme to it, a certain lesson to it. I think all of our lives have themes. Like mine is very witchy, very esoteric, occultism. Like obviously that's a massive theme in my life. It's always been in my life since I was a kid. I was always interested in magic and dragons and gorgons and Greek myths and stuff like that. And, I was hungry for story. I've got that Sag side of me. I actually see myself more as a Sag these days than I do a Scorpio, actually. As I've gotten older, I've kind of I'm starting to mellow a little bit. And the storyteller in me is hungry for story. And because story is information, when we share stories, we are sharing bits of our own experiences with other people. And it's tribal. It goes right back to when we were sitting around a bonfire in a tribe talking about our stories. We're all healing aspects of each other through ourselves as we express those aspects. So someone else will learn something from my story, and then I'll listen to their story. But yeah. So the theme that I'm kind of revisiting this year in my life is my relationship with time management and my relationship with procrastination. I came out of 2 years of lockdowns. I did 18 months all up of the hardest lockdowns in the world. And it really kind of forced my hand back into, who am I? What am I doing with my life? Da 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 da. And I feel like COVID or the pandemic has definitely done that or is doing that still. So, yeah, these days I'm trying to really balance the relationship that I have with social media and trying to find people out there that are able to receive me in a healthy boundary way where they feel that they just don't have full access to me every second of the day, because that's not feasible. It's not realistic. It's just not sustainable. So I like people that I chat to every now and then when I can. And it's deep and it's raw. And then I just, another week or a couple of days will go by and we'll message again. But I have really struggled with social media. It's a very distracting and fucked up thing, and I think we all do. Like, if you're a creative, I mean, you have to really balance um, everything. It's a balancing act because connecting with people uh, on social media, in a way, it's like, yeah, it's not healthy for an artist. It can really mentally derail you. Like, I'll read a comment or I'll go on there and it's like you get sucked into this vortex, and understanding that the vortex, it's not real, but at the same time it is real. So there's a lot of cross problems that you have to deal with, like, and how much time and energy that those chats connections take. um yeah, so I don't know, I'm just kind of chatting today. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's no like specific agenda here. You can probably hear my pencil is moving around. I am drawing and just trying to learn to chill the fuck out, you know? I need. That's what I need. Sometimes you just need to just learn to chill the fuck out. Learn to just keep yourself in silence. Keep your mind not like suspended in a way where it's just like, I'm not taking the bait today. I'm not getting pulled into this today. I'm going to focus on my goal. I'm going to finish another panel for my book. When I say panel, I mean another page from my kids' book. Um, and I'm going to try and get this done today. Like, that's a big part of it. Yeah. So, if you'd like me to talk about a topic that you would like to hear my views on, please let me know. I am always here and I'm always interested in connecting with other people. It's got to be deep, it's got to be raw, no fluffy shit. Um, and I'm going to be doing a video next week, which I'm slightly not nervous about, but I'm slightly worried about, because I see it's more like these days with the consumption of tarot, it tends to be more about the aesthetic of it than it is about the knowledge of it. And, where I feel that spirituality is kind of gone since like social media and TikTok, and the algorithms completely changed. And I also feel that a lot of people are very scared to talk about that. If you have a spiritual business, if you're doing readings, or you've got a physical product that you're selling, like a tarot deck, or you're an artist that makes tarot art or esoteric art, you would know that it has completely changed in how you are seen, in how you are viewed. And once upon a time, we had a range of access to people that would be new to this type of thing. And that's how we grew our channels. That's how we cultivated connections. That's how we were able to support ourselves. But since the changes have happened through Facebook or through Meta, whatever it's called now, that is simply just not the case. And it all goes by the keywords or the interests of that particular person. So if they don't already have a pre-existing interest in your field, then they actually don't get exposed to your field at all. So there's no more of the bridging of the gap, if that makes any sense. There's no more bridging of the gap of someone that's new just finding you. It's like they already have to have a stake in it to find you, which makes you less visible, which is really, really concerning. And I've seen a massive change in the way, I'm able to make a sale. As you know, I support myself through selling my tarot cards. That's mostly how I try and support myself while and that's the thing, like as an artist, you've got artwork out there. You at the same time you're trying to make new artwork, put that artwork out there, and at the same time you're also trying to um, support yourself from what you've done before. So it's very, very difficult, because particularly if you're self-employed in that respect and you don't have a publisher or a big publishing house pushing your work out there, you're completely at the mercy of the algorithm. And as if it's not hard enough to make work that's in this field without it already being limited to the amount of people who can actually view it and see it, or even are exposed to your work and have access to your work to begin with. So yeah, it's really terrifying, and I think a lot of people at the moment, particularly with what's happening over in the Ukraine, what's happening in east of Europe, there's a lot of turmoil there. And then you kind of feel like, oh, well, if I say, oh, things have changed, my life's harder here, you kind of feel there's a bit of guilt there because people don't want to talk about it because they've got other things going on that are, and hey, that's true. It is true. Like for sure, absolutely. My heart really, and I'm saying this publicly, my heart really goes out to the people of Ukraine. It really does. They're all displaced, and to see all the families, everything destroyed, it's not ending well for them. It's not going well for them. My heart also goes out for the people of Russia as well, the ones that did not want this, do not want this. If they speak out about it, they get silenced, they disappear. Russia's been cut off from the world, yet I see a lot of people are afraid to talk about it, and I'm not. We've got to talk about this. This is what's going on. It's terrible. Young people going to war, and they don't want to be there. They don't want to do this. You know, it's fucked up. Soon Russia's going to run out of food, going to run out of food to eat. This is bad. So it's what's going on out there. And, obviously, in comparison to what's happening here, it is what it is. But let me say this, when we downplay someone else's, like, so when we say, oh, someone else somewhere else has it, someone else somewhere else has it worse than you, what you're trying to do is minimize your problem or your pain in comparison to someone else's paradigm. And that doesn't work. If you're in pain, you're in pain. If you're struggling, you're struggling. And not saying anything about it isn't going to like make it go away. Yeah, it's just not. So yeah, I'm always here. If you want to talk, reach out to me. Um, and let's talk. Let's have a chat. I'm always open to meeting new people and connecting with people. I try to hold as much space as I can for people. Sometimes we just don't vibe, and that's fine. Sometimes we do vibe, and that's fine too. That's how it tends to work. But yeah, I thought I would just jump on and have a little candid chat today. Yeah, so back to my point here, my relationship with time management is so important because it just seems like as you get older, time just speeds up. and the weeks just fly by like minutes. You know, if you blink an eye, you'll miss life. That's honestly how it feels sometimes. Like I'm not joking here. I'm being serious. Like, and it is really worrying to me, to be honest. I get worried because it's like I've got so much that I want to do and trying to work that out logistically since the world changed from COVID and what you can do, what you can't do, and things like that. You know, it's still we're still kind of coming out of this massive shift that's happening. And a lot of people have kind of come out and said that it's like being in a new reality. It's like being in a new world. And you've either made that jump, it's already happened, you've already made the shift into this new world, or you haven't. And yeah, I can see what they mean there. Yeah, I think there's definitely some truth in that. Then we've got people that want it to go back to the way it was, and I just don't think it's going to. And what does this mean? You know, where do we go from here? These are the questions that we have, and we're all just trying to figure ourselves out, figure out where we're going, what we're doing. Um, but a lot of the time, I have been thinking like, why do I even, why do I even fucking bother? You know. But yeah, I think ultimately, when I'm making art or when I'm creating something, it brings me peace. It brings my soul peace and joy. And I could go get a regular job and go do something else, but nothing makes me feel as fulfilled as I do when I'm making art, creating something that is of depth and substance. You know, it's not just enough to draw something pretty. It's got to have something going on a deeper level than that. And then it's kind of like it's like it's a time to sow. Like you sow it, you grow it, you work on it, you work really, really damn hard on it, and then you put it out into the world, and you know whether it'll be loved or it'll be hated, and people will try and deconstruct it and make videos trying to deconstruct you to gain social capital, or you know, and then you try and pull away from it. So it's a real up and down roller coaster, just trying to put something out there in the world, and then know that once it goes out there, it's not really yours anymore. It belongs to the collective now, and everyone's got their opinion. And yeah, it's a lot. But ultimately, all humans do when we do something is we're either doing something from a place of connection, wanting to connect to people, wanting to be seen. I think that we're tribally hungry. Humans are tribally hungry. So it all comes down to connection. And connection comes down to how we make people feel. How do we make each other feel? When you're in a relationship and that person walks through the door, how do you make them feel? Because that's what it really comes down to. And you can get really complicated and study psychology, but ultimately that's what a connection or a relationship is. I'm very lucky, I'm very visual, and I'm very visceral. I can see something straight away, and like whether that turns me on visually or not, I can see that and I can understand that. So that's just how I operate. And I tend to only want to draw and paint and create things that really that turn me on, like make me excited. I want to do things that I'm passionate about. So hence why I'm taking the biggest gamble of my life. I spent a lot of time after the Alga Life Tarot deck. I had some big changes that happened. I moved house, I got a house, and I had to settle down. And then, of course, COVID hit. Back then, I could feel COVID coming, so I already knew that this is what was coming. And I was telling people this is what's coming, and they're all laughing at me. And it wasn't until it really hit, and they understood why I'd been stockpiling food and stuff like that. And then I was kind of rendered creatively fucked, like for a long time. I mean, who feels creative when you're in a lockdown? Like, who really feels creative when you feel trapped? No one. No artist feels creative in that space. And it was really scary at the start of that because we didn't know how long this was going to go on for. Obviously, there was no vaccines. Like, no one knew what the fuck was going on here. And still to this time, at the moment, a lot of people still don't. We don't know. There's still so many things that we just don't know yet. And the true agenda of everything that's gone down, that is going down. And so I had kind of like had this idea that I wanted to do something different and I wanted to do something in color. and I had a lot of different stories in my head. So I took myself to a hotel and I got a bottle of Jack Daniels and I sat down and said to myself, I'm not allowed to leave here until I have something that is substantial enough that I could work with to make a book. I want to do a kid's book. I want to do a kid's book that talks about adult issues in a way that is relatable and entertaining and has a moral to the story. It has a heart to it, something that you can get out of it. And I came up with two stories, and one of them was called The Tale of the Two Sisters, which is about two witches that were sisters that just didn't get along. And I really like that concept, and I will come back to that at some point. I definitely will. And then I came along with this one, which is called The Boy Who Lived Inside a Volcano, which is what I'm currently working on at the moment. And I decided to go with that. So here I am. And it is a journey. You have to be really open to wherever it may lead you, but also enjoy the process. You've got it, whatever it is that you're doing, I'll give you a bit of a tip. You have to enjoy the process of what it is that you're doing, because you are going to spend more time in the process of something than you will in the return or reaping of the reward of something. And it's not about making a product that sells and makes tons of money. If you come in art with that type of agenda, that is, yeah, you won't go far. Good luck. Forget it. You come into this creative way of doing it is because you really, really genuinely love doing it. And even if no one understood what it is that you're trying to express or say, you stepped up and you gave it a good shot and you tried. And that's really all that matters in the end, is that you did something from your heart. You had something to say. And I'm getting more comfortable with that now. I understand that now. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, it is a journey and I'm really enjoying it. Um, and you just trusting the process. You know, each storyboard, each page that I do does take, you know, up to 2 to 3 weeks to do a page. That's because it's all done by hand and it's all drawn in A1 size. It's a very large size with pencil and paint. And yeah, it's a very, very slow process. But this process that I'm on is all I know. You know, I don't know how to do anything other than what I am. I don't know how to do anything other than who I am. So I'm sticking with what I know. And I think that I could go out into the world and learn a new skill set, and you know, I'd probably do quite well in the corporate world. I have been in the corporate world before, but that's just not me. You know, it's just not me. So the life of an artist, it's a weird place to be. Um, Obviously, you're alone a lot. You have to have a tremendous amount of faith in your own ability. You have to stay motivated to keep going. There's no team. No one knows what it is that you're doing. You're doing this thing, you know, that you're making from your heart. And you don't really know where it's going to go. You don't really know what's going to happen. But what you do know is that you're following a feeling or an idea and just seeing where that leads you. And that would be very, very scary to someone that lives in a mindset that needs to follow procedures or follow instructions or work in a bank or a scientist or something that's very cerebral. I believe that art is not cerebral. It is a dance between effort and surrender. So it's mass exertions of inspiration hit, and when that inspiration hits you, or I find that I have literally minutes to seconds to capture or screenshot that idea or jot it down on a notepad for that fleeting second, and then it's gone. And then my mood changes, and then the next day I'm like in a different state of mind, and whatever I thought was exciting yesterday, it won't. And then things come and go, like ideas that I thought were not good come back again. And yeah, it's a process. you know. And it kind of, I think at some point what happens is, which is finally what's happening with this project that I'm on now, is that it kind of begins to tell you what it wants to be. It tells you what it wants to be, and then you get out of the way of that and just let it be what it wants to be. And art is very abstract. Like creativity, I believe, is not logical. You have to kind of be in this kind of open state of mind, kind of a little bit like, I don't know, like in hypnotism or something. Like, yeah, it's the only way to describe it. But when I get in the zone and I nestle myself into the zone, I find a spot, and I don't know, something just kind of clicks. You kind of just settle in for the day, settle in for that afternoon, that time that you've allotted, and you just let yourself go, trying to keep those distractions on social media away, and keep myself calm. And there'll always will be, like I said at the start of the video, there'll always be that bill that's worrying you. There'll always be that conversation with that person that's worrying you. There'll always be that tax problem that's worrying you. They're not going to go away. They're going to be there. And it's about moving through the chaos of that, not letting it override or, completely freak you out, and then allow the creativity to come through. So you have to kind of prioritize the catastrophe. You have to prioritize. Okay, so which catastrophe am I dealing with today? Okay, this one. All right, great. Let's go with that. That's kind of what it feels like most days. Yeah. And it all comes down to my mood, how I'm feeling, what I'm eating, what happened that morning. Like it's all connected. If I believe if you're not happy and you're not feeling good in yourself, well, then your work's not going to be the best work. You're going to be in that mindset. So it's a tricky one. So it's all about trying to suspend myself in this kind of floating state, like I'm high or on drugs or something. And, um, I'm a bit of a shaman. So you're trying to get myself in these states of consciousness and then just sit in those states for as long periods of time. And I listen to podcasts, I listen to music, I listen to motivational things, always trying to find new things that I'm interested in, and learning something new, and then something else comes along, and it's a journey. The occult is a journey. Working with spirit is a journey as well. And everyone's process is different. So I'm just sharing a little bit of my process with you and some of my little quirks and tricks and tips. But yeah, I would say if you've got an idea in your head, now's the time. Get into the action phase. Action, action, action. It's not enough just to have an idea. You have to bring it out into the physical world. That's where it needs to be. Bring it out where people can see it, where people can feel it, and you can really get that connection. Because that's why ultimately everything that we do, I believe, comes from either integration of each other, connectivity, or it comes from fragmentation, fractal, like pushing something away from us. That's all human behavior is, really. So yeah, it's an incredible high when someone recognizes my work or my effort or my time and my mind, and I feel seen, and that ultimately brings me closer to them. It is about connection. Like art is about truth. I believe art is about storytelling, and it is about connection. That's what I believe. So this will be my gift kind of to the world, I guess, with this story that I've been working on, The Boy Who Lived Inside a Volcano. So the story is, yeah, dealing with how a monster is made. How does a character that is pushed around, jerked around, and hurt and abused and neglected and forgotten and not understood and feels completely unsafe comes across power, and then what he does with it and what happens to him that changes. And that's a lot of what my story is. So yeah, there's a little bit of a uh, teaser. And of course, there's lots of animals and nature and magic and very lush, beautiful landscapes, which I'm trying to create. You know, I would love to get to the zoo a lot more. I did go to the zoo quite a bit when I was working on the Alga Live Tarot deck. I think nothing can beat physically going to a zoo. Obviously, it's a great experience if you can go with your family or your friends and you get to look at these animals face to face. And whether you draw them or take photos to reference later, it really, really helps. Really, really, really helps me get yeah, into the mind of movement, creation, and obviously, if you're drawing animals and nature, then it's best to get out there, get out there in the forest, get out there in the jungle. So I've got a couple of trips planned this year, which will really help inspire me. I feel very inspired when I come back from my travel. And then I take a lot of photographs and I kind of sit on the aeroplane or I sit on the bus or the train, whatever, and I look through all the photos and I work out, oh yeah, that's cool, like do that or go more with this. And yeah, so I'm hoping that I'll get a lot more time this year to do that as well. Well, I have rabbited on a little bit of a really real, down to earth chat, a little bit about my process, a little bit about my relationship with time management. And, I hope that you took something out of this. Let me know how you feel. What's happening with you? Message me. I've actually just come out of a bit of an eye infection. So I've had, we really take for granted our sight, but when our sight gets fucked around with, like I just suddenly got this eye infection and it just really hit hard. And so I'm still kind of in recovery from that. My eye completely swelled up literally overnight and got to the point where it was like almost like I couldn't even open my eyes. So yeah, it was quite confronting and like shit, you have to kind of, maybe it's a sign, slow down. Maybe it's like a lot of things that you've got to kind of reassess. So I'm still kind of in recovery of the eye at the moment. And yeah, I will be right as rain in a couple of days. I've got my antibiotics now. So, well, I wish you a great week. Thank you for listening to my chat and I will see you in the next video. Don't know when that will be, but this is just a bit of a random chat today. Thank you for supporting my work and thank you for taking the time to listen to my crazy ass. All right. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye.